Hey, Corey.
Hey, Rolando. Thanks for having me on, man.
Of course. Thank you for allowing me to come to your house and interview you. It's gonna be great. I just have a couple questions for you. In terms of the life of a freelance musician.
Yeah.
Here in Metro Atlanta. I'm gonna go ahead and just go straight in. So I guess question number one would be, what is your practice routine like?
So my practice routine can be limited sometimes. I'm pretty much a full-time teacher, private studio teacher, or teaching master classes, which is a big part of the freelance musician life, especially for a tuba player. Because there's not, just a Tuesday night gig that I can play at a club on tuba, unless I made that myself.
Right.
Not the traditional gig sets. So a lot of my practice, we're also in an apartment right now. My practice schedule is kind of limited to when I can squeeze it in between students, or if I show up to one of my schools early when they have planning periods. So while I don't get nearly as much practice time as I used to when I was in school, I still managed to squeeze some in, and it's taught me how to be really efficient with my time. That's something my high school students don't understand that quite yet. But I've been trying to tell them, especially, they're on AP overload, half of them are, and don't have time to practice. So we talk about time management a lot with them, because that's just something I've dealt with over the last couple of years since I moved to town.
Wow, that's really good. Nice. Okay, cool. So my next question would be, what one skill would you like to improve, and what's your plan for doing so?
My time management.
Your time management? Okay, yeah.
So when I moved to town, I didn't have a whole lot of work. And so when I started to, go into this one middle school, start teaching some master classes, and then, then I pick up another school, and then I start picking up some private students, Right when I moved to town, I was all about just saying yes to any work that I could get my hands on.
Right.
And so now I'm at the point where I'm going completely full-time, which is really, really great. And I'm so happy that it's only taken me 2 years to really kind of find my niche with that.
That's really good.
I understand that is not the norm.
No.
But, I just kind of kept plugging away, and I drive a lot.
Yeah.
And I will say that's one thing that kind of scared me about moving to Atlanta, was kind of stepping on other people's toes and getting on other people's turf. I don't think that there's too much. I don't think that there will be too many teachers up here, because there are so many schools that want to have instructors like us come in. And now I have to, people keep asking me to come in, and now I have to turn away. Which kind of brings me to the point that I'm able to be more selective with my work.
Good.
I don't have to be working all the time. And that's kind of where I am transitioning to now, being a little more selective so that I can, spend my time practicing or arranging, or, go have dinner with my wife, because, that takes work too. And it takes time. But yeah, time management, probably one of those things that I'm still working on even myself. But it just takes time to figure out.
Yeah. Thank you, man. That's a really good answer. Okay, so I guess the ultimate question, more or less, here that I have is, what do you do as a freelance musician? Like, what does that look like during the day?
Well, every day is a little bit different. Since I'm kind of full up in terms of the school day, on Mondays I'll go to a particular middle school, and then I'll go do marching band practice after that at a different school. And then the next day will be a different school, and then something else in the evening. Georgia Brass Band rehearsal, woohoo! But yeah, it's always something a little bit different, but it involves pretty similar work hours to a normal classroom teacher. It just depends on whether I'm in one classroom for the day or 3 different classrooms for a day, and just a little commuting in between. and some days are lighter than others, some days are really long, but, it just depends. My weekly schedule doesn't usually change, unless I have to go out of town for a gig or a wedding or something like that. My schedule is pretty routine at this point, which can help with my time management, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the days can be long if you're teaching.
Of course.
Or sometimes the nights can be long if you're in more of the playing scene. If you're Monday nights over at Cafe 290, that could be a gig for some. It's not for me.
Yeah.
I'll go check them out every now and then.
Yeah. Well, I know in the past they used to stay out, until they closed, and then
Right.
you had to hang afterwards, and some of them had to be up early in the morning. So
Mhm. Yeah, that can be really important.
Yeah, 2 days can turn into one. So it's
really
ridiculous.
fast. Yeah, that can be a really good thing too. Is even if it's not a gig for you, if it's a good gig for somebody else, you might just want to go see them play, and then you get to kind of rub elbows with some of the other heavy hitters that are in town.
Yes.
It can always open doors for you, but also just they're usually pretty cool people.
Yeah.
Just good people to know.
Of course. Nice. Really good. Okay. So, what do you like to do outside of work?
Outside of work, I'm going to call work as my teaching, since
Okay.
that's just most of my stuff right now. I'll come home and I'll cook usually.
Yeah.
It's just something different, but I've always enjoyed doing that. And if I wasn't, if I didn't do school for music and wasn't currently doing music, I'd probably be doing something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Culinary.
It's just culinary. It's just something that's it's interesting for me.
Yeah.
And it's some could say that it's artistic expression as entertainment.
Of course.
That's sort of what we do as
Well, yeah.
performers. It's sort of in that same track, and we work hard for the little money we get. The same as a chef.
Right.
Long nights. It's
Long days.
It's
long
the same
nights,
thing.
dealing with
It's the
people.
same thing. Oh,
of
yeah.
course, yeah.
But it's just something that I enjoy doing, and I've been trying to get more into arranging. You and I play in a quintet together, and I've been trying to kind of open up that skill set of just putting tunes that I like, on paper, and then put it in front of the group.
Oh yeah.
Because that could, that's something that can help us stand out as a group.
That's right.
First of all, but second of all, it could be, if I develop my pen a little bit, then it could be something that actually turns into an income stream.
Yeah, another skill.
It's just another skill. That's sort of work related, but sometimes I just like to come home and sit, listen to nothing, and do nothing.
And do nothing, right?
You got to have a reset for the brain every now and
just
then.
unwind a little bit. That's
Mhm.
good. It's funny you mentioned the culinary thing. My brother is actually a chef here in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's a chef here in Atlanta, in Decatur. The name of the restaurant is called the White Bull. I guess go check it out. But yeah, he's
Shameless
one of the-
plug.
Yeah, one of the high end chefs there.
Okay.
So definitely go check it out. If you have time. Cool. Well, great. This is great. Okay. So next question I have is, can you tell me about a time when you overcame a challenge? Whether it be work, personal, whichever one you
Yeah.
get.
Yeah. Well, there's a few.
Which one that really sticks out?
Yeah. So about a year ago or so, I had graduated from my master's at Columbus State University, and I had been in this area for about 6 months or so, and maybe a little bit longer than that. I can't remember exactly how long, but I had been asked to come down and do a little bit of interim teaching for that school, and I was also encouraged to apply for the full-time position. That was, I was encouraged by some of the faculty members in the Brass area to apply for that position when it became open. And then I wasn't selected as a finalist, which, is, like the orchestra audition life, you kind of get used to not getting out of the prelims after
Right.
a while. And
Of course.
But that was kind of the first time that I had had something like that where I was encouraged to do that, and then I didn't get a spot, and I had to keep showing up to that job.
Mhm.
And it was really difficult. And I remember kind of piecing together the news and the clues, and then at the time I was a barista over at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Cheers. I was a barista over at Starbucks, and I still had to go up and open the next day, and that was mentally pretty challenging. But you get over it. And I heard recently the other day that when life opens a door, another one is open. But sometimes that hallway can be kind of long.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like. But at the time, I was working more at Starbucks than I was at teaching,
Mhm.
so I thought that might have been sort of a really awesome opportunity if I could land that job, but it wasn't in the cards at that time. And now, where it felt like I was kind of hopeless for a minute, it didn't end up being so bad. I get to stay in Atlanta. The drive from here to Columbus it's not terrible, but to do it once a week can be kind of draining.
Right.
So, it just ended up being best for my work life. And, they've got a great teacher down there. Bernard Flythe is doing really, really amazing
Yeah.
things down there,
It is.
as to be expected. So, they made the right call, and it ended up being a good call for me as well, professionally.
Yeah.
Some things are coming as a result of me not having to go down there and build curriculum and think of things about that.
Yeah. Nice. Good. Yeah, that was really good. Okay. So here's my next question. How often, if ever, do you think about another career or leaving music? I know it's kind of...
Yeah, that can be a tricky question
Yeah.
sometimes. I honestly, I don't ever really think about it.
Okay.
And not now anyways.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking to Amanda, my wife. I was just talking to Amanda about this yesterday, that if I was going to go back to school, it might not be for music. And I would probably be in the music field still, but I would be really interested in getting some sort of business experience if I was going to be more of a music product kind of entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, or opening a store here in town.
Yeah.
I've had ideas like that, but it does always come back to music. It's such a big part of my life, and I think it's really important that we, support the arts and all that good stuff. I've been living that life for so long that it's just kind of natural for me to think that way. It'd be really odd. It'd be a very odd feeling, I think, to not really be in music anymore.
Right.
So, to some extent, I would still be in music, even if it was just packaged a little bit differently, as like a mouthpiece maker or horn builder or instrument dealer or something like that. But it always comes back to the time that I've put in as a musician and as a teacher.
Nice. That's really neat. Okay. Well, follow-up question to that then. I know you've already kind of answered this one, but I'm still going to ask it, is if you could choose a different career, what would it be? And I know you kind of just mentioned a little bit with an instrument or a business, but if you could be a little bit more specific. what do you
Yeah,
think that
sure.
may be?
Well, I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. An idea that I've always had ever since I moved to Atlanta, if you have high school students that want to upgrade an instrument or are looking at potentially being a music major, there's a couple of good shops that get some good instruments in, but there's not a big showroom.
Okay.
And even for people, like professionals who are looking for something different, want to check out, I don't know, a Yamaha Xeno instead of a Bach Strat that they've been playing on for 20 years. Whatever. There's not a showroom here in town that does that. So if anybody was going to get really smart and open up a shop, I would go.
Yeah.
I would go and check it out. I mean, there's just not really a good one like
For
Dylan's music or Baltimore Brass. You know, Dylan's is in New Jersey,
Yeah.
or the Horn Guys is actually where I bought my C tuba, but I had it shipped from California because that's where they are.
Yeah.
I bought it, huge risk. Don't ever do this. Sight unseen. I needed a horn, and it was in my budget. It was exactly what I wanted, and I just bought it. But you know, it's because in the Southeast there's not a ton of places. There's the Buffet Showroom that's down in Florida, down in Jacksonville. But even then, sometimes the instruments are so popular that they can't keep them in stock.
Right.
So even if you did make the drive down there, they don't always have that full inventory. So a shop up here would be really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And that would be, if I wasn't in teaching or performing anymore, that's what I would be doing. That's why I would try to get that business experience. There's just nothing like that up here.
Yeah.
And I think it would be pretty successful to have that kind of shop.
Definitely. Definitely. I would have to agree with that, having a shop, you know, for high-end instruments. Instead of just, you know, the students, which is great. All that stuff is great, but definitely having a high-end instrument store or a showroom would definitely be beneficial.
There's always room for a specialist. No matter what the
yeah.
field, there's always room for a specialist. So a lot of these shops will stock the beginner or intermediate instruments because there's so many band programs up here, and they can sell those instruments.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just a business move.
It is a business move.
There's also a ton of really great players. You know, a
Right.
person I've talked to, you know, as early as yesterday,
Yeah.
was talking about, you know, getting a different trumpet that, you know, he's been playing on the same one for 30 years, and he's talking about getting something different. Or trombone players who are not equipment people and then decide to, you know, they have to fly up to Boston or out, you know, to get outfitted with something new.
Yeah.
It's just, you know,
It's definitely challenging. Yeah.
it can be a challenge to just get a new horn that you like.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Okay. Let's change it up a little bit. So how has music changed your personal life? So I know we've been talking a lot about business here and more of like the work life, but now kind of just digging in a little bit further, you know, if you could kind of just give me a little bit of a glimpse of how music, you know, has
Yeah.
changed your personal life.
Well, you know, so I'm a big fan of Nick Saban. I'm an Alabama graduate. Roll Tide. Yeah, they had a really, really great game yesterday. I'm a big fan of Nick Saban and Alabama football, and his big thing when he's not screaming his head off at his players, his thing is to trust the process.
Trust the process. Okay.
So I guess, you know, within that is just patience. You know, a small step in the right direction is still a step in the right direction.
Right.
Even if it's just 1% one day or one click on the metronome, it's still a step in the right direction so long as your feet are pointed due north. So as time taxing as our craft can be to, you know, dial in that right sound or, you know, just figure out the fingers for that really extremely difficult technical passage, you know, a small step in the right direction it's just a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, in school academically or, you know, we're trying to find, you know, we're trying to upgrade our living space eventually.
Yeah.
But nothing is on the market right now that, you know, that's in our budget or that we like. So we're not going to rush into something that we don't want or can't do. So we just wait a little bit, you know, be patient. That's something I definitely couldn't do as a as a younger person 10 years ago. Holy cow. Yeah, patience is difficult, but patience is something that's practiced.
That's very true. Patience is key. Learn that. All right. So continuing on with your personal life here, how do you balance your professional life with your personal life, and can you do both?
Yeah, I like this question a lot. I was in my undergraduate degree, I was in school to be a band director, and, you know, I kind of saw, and I was dating the girl that I would eventually marry, and I kind of saw that with the band directors I have seen have really successful programs, there's sort of this 3-part rule. You know, like if you've seen some of the pictures that go around on the internet, when you're in college, you can have good grades, a social life, or enough sleep, and you get to pick 2 of them, right? So I saw, and this could be totally wrong, so there's always an exception, right? But I saw that you can have a really awesome band program, be an authority, certifiably awesome on your instrument, or have a successful marriage, family, personal life kind of things. And you get to pick 2 of them. Mm-hmm. It's really difficult to do all 3 of them. It's not impossible, but you have to sleep at some point.
Right.
So I saw that those were sort of 3 things that either band directors drop their instrument because they're married or having kids and want to dedicate time to their kids and their band program, or people who aren't married who still go out and gig and then still during the day have a top-notch middle school band program or high school band program or whatever. And I just saw I didn't want to quit my instrument. I'm not saying that all band directors quit their instrument, but it's just sometimes it's just a thing that happens.
Yes.
I didn't want to quit my instrument, and I felt a pull that I might eventually marry this person that I've been seeing for a while, and made the right call. But a traditional classroom teacher wasn't necessarily at the top of my priority there. And I still get to teach, and it's still a big part of my life, and I love it. I just didn't see that traditional classroom band director position as a part of what my career was going to look like. And so that's ultimately, I was about maybe halfway, 2/3 through my undergraduate degree, and I decided that I was going to do some auditions and try to go to graduate school for music performance. This is what I ultimately did and how I ended up at Columbus State. But yeah, that's just one of those things that I saw was prevalent in the music education field, and I saw I tried to make the decisions that were going to make me the happiest and make have sort of a balance of music making and music teaching.
Right.
That's ultimately what drives my music teaching is my music making.
Right.
Not everyone is the same, but for me, that's definitely it.
Good. Nice. I kind of just want to bring it back a little bit. This is kind of like the question in terms of this interview, and I kind of just want to know your thoughts on this. So the question is, what does networking mean to you, and how do you network?
Oh man. Okay. I like this question too. I've heard of the term intentional networking, which just means that if there's somebody that's going to be at this gig, let's make up a name. Say John is going to be, upgrading his job as a band director, to like the top-notch program in the state, and it's right here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So that he plays in this band that plays at blah club on Tuesday nights. It might be a good idea for you to show up and try to shake hands with him because it could lead to some good work.
Yeah.
That's intentional networking. But, there's another thing, and this is something that I kind of wish I'd done a little bit better as an undergrad. And I did this, a little bit in CSU, but a friend pointed out that as a performance major, which I was not, but performance majors kind of have this habit of looking at the practice habits of of music education majors
Mm-hmm.
who, for one reason or another may not value their performance on the instrument as much as their education curriculum. I don't want to dig too much into that, but I will say that sometimes performance majors can pass a lot of extra judgment when everybody's just trying to get their degree and do the best thing that is possible for them. Be nice to your education majors, because if you're somebody like me who is employed by band teachers, a lot of the teachers I work for don't play their instruments anymore. So they would have been the people that got some hate from performance majors as a result. You know what I mean? But we ultimately, as teachers and performers, the freelance breed anyways, we get hired by band directors.
Right.
So just be nice to them.
Yeah.
Be nice to the people that you go to school with, especially if they're really great music ed schools and simultaneously performance schools in sort of the Atlanta metro, and I'll include University of Georgia in that. Yeah. If you're a performance major, be nice to the people that might hire you.
Yeah, exactly.
It just that kind of follows in the general rule of just be nice to people. If people are reminded that you're a nice person, it could have been a favor that you did for them, or you show up a little bit late to that class and you don't look over and roll their eyes. Just be cool. Be nice to people, and they'll remember you as a nice person. And if you can play decently well, that'll usually be enough for them to want to hire you as a trumpet instructor, or visual person for marching band if that's your thing. Yeah, just be nice. Right. That's my networking tip.
Nice.
Just be nice to people.
Good. That's awesome. I know. Yeah, in the past, just people that, what you were saying, they just like to point out the flaws, but they never like to congratulate some of the work that people do in general. So that's really good.
Yeah. Always give props.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, and I guess my last question for you would be, that I have written down here, would be, do you feel fulfilled through the work of music?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's, one of the last questions we talked about, sort of my career if I wasn't doing what I was doing now, and it's still in music.
Yeah.
We talked about culinary a little bit, but, that took some thinking. Like if I was, gonna sell everything that I own and do something completely different, I was totally burnt out in that way. But, yeah, music is totally fulfilling to me. The teaching I do fuels the performance that I do, and the performance that I do fuels the teaching. It's this, it's this, endless cycle of positivity that I'm really thankful is there. It works for me. So in that, it's extremely fulfilling. I wouldn't really dream of doing anything else. It's a grind, it's a hustle, but it works for me, and it really helps. That my wife is really, really supportive.
Yeah.
Her work and her work schedule can be. She's an attorney, so her work schedule can be kind of. Yeah, I made a good move. Health insurance, that's awesome.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
There's some great benefits, but she's been really, really supportive, and my family's been really supportive. So that always helps. But if that was never the case, having that support, I think if you don't feel supported, find the people that support you. Find people that are going to be on your team to help you do what you want to do. And luckily, I've had those people on my side for a really long time.
That's awesome.
So it's been good, and I don't think it's going to get any worse. Hopefully.
Good.
Knock on wood. Somewhere.
I know, right? That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, that's all the questions I have. I do have one more question that I would like to ask you. It's not necessarily written down here, so it's kind of more of a lightning round, if you will. But what is one thing you wish you could have learned in undergrad that you know now that you wish you would have learned then, or not necessarily undergrad, but in school, that would benefit you more as it does now?
Wow. I would probably say, the entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and that's something that's getting really, really big in music schools now, and that's so awesome, because that was not really a mainstream thing like it is. It's not even mainstream now, but it's more on the up and up.
Yeah.
It's sort of becoming more of a mainstay in the music curriculum. And I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily entrepreneurial in the way that I do my business, or the business I do is not entrepreneurial, but the way that I try to handle my business is entrepreneurial. It has sort of an entrepreneurial spirit in that if the round peg is not fitting in the square hole, I don't just get a bigger hammer.
Right.
There's got to be a smarter way
Yes.
to do it.
Yes.
And just, if our field is based off of creativity, that's just another way to be creative. Just
Yeah.
look at all the different options, and if something hasn't been done before, don't be afraid to try that.
Yeah.
There are, there's new solo repertoire for your instrument written every day.
Yeah, that's true.
You could be, in an entrepreneurial sense, as a trumpet performer, you could be the person that is an expert on the stuff that was released in this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort, in a traditional sense, it's playing your instrument for money and doing recitals in that kind of way, but it's not playing the Haydn again, which there's nothing wrong with the classics, but lots of people do that.
Yeah,
like
definitely
that's
a good starter.
That's been covered.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a way to mix the traditional paths with some newer mindsets and some newer creative ways, and that's been happening for a while. But thinking entrepreneurially is definitely something that's helped me since I was out of school. But man, if I could have sort of that mindset in school, I might have a little bit of a different perspective or be in a slightly different place. I heard recently that when you're in school, you're building your business for when you're out of school, and then you can just start your business or keep working your business. I didn't start really doing business until I was done with school and moved up here. Mm-hmm. A lot of people would say that's too late.
Yeah.
But it happened eventually. It took about a year to really get sort of in the scene. But I could have done some legwork ahead of time.
Yeah.
But that's just something. I didn't have that kind of foresight or future planning necessarily, and that's, I think, something that's, when you think entrepreneurially, that's something that I think goes hand in hand, is that foresight. Like, what am I gonna do tomorrow, or what am I gonna do next week, or what am I gonna do when I graduate?
Yeah.
Am I gonna stay in school? Yes or no, and then you go from the flow chart from there. But entrepreneurship for sure is something I wish that had been more overtly covered in the curriculum when I was in it.
Good. It's a great answer. Do you have any last words that you would like to say? Especially for like the upcoming musicians that are still in school, whether it be high school or college. Like any form of advice that you wish you had when you were their age.
Practice now. I'm serious about that. There's that. I'm stealing this from Adam Fry. He did a master class down at CSU while I was down there. He talks about the 10,000 hours rule, the 10,000 hours towards mastery. And if you start start logging your hours now, or really you have been, but you can log your hours, a little bit quicker, which is more dedicated time now. And, you know, I heard this a lot in my undergrad and in my master's, and I just didn't believe it. But you know, when you get out of school, you'll wish you had that time to practice that you did when you were in school.
Yeah.
And when you start a family, you're gonna really wish you had that time, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, everything is a time investment. So just practice now. If you're still in school, you know, make that investment so that when you're out of school, you know, you have a stronger skill set, you know, a stronger base of skills that will help you once you're out of school, or to get you to that next school,
Mhm.
or wherever it happens to be, or whatever that skill happens to be. You know, start trying to invest in that time now, for sure. That would be my number one advice.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Corey.
Yeah, man.
Pleasure, you know, interviewing you, and thank you so much for letting me come over to your house.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. I'm excited to
yeah.
see where this goes.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. And
Rock and
that's it.
roll.